Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And boy, oh boy, here we go again, because as I'm sure you guys are well aware, yesterday we got the trailer for Thor Love and Thunder, and the market went absolutely bonkers over a few books that relate to that film. So in this video, we're going to kind of take a look at the market together, see what books have really been moving, see what books haven't really been moving. And then at the end of the video, I want to talk about one book that I thought was really interesting that might be a cool spec to sort of keep our eyes on for the future. But before I get into this video, we got to give a shout out to the sponsor of the video, which is actually MySlabs.com.
The platform designed by collectors for collectors just got even better. MySlabs.com is proud to now feature dedicated sections for both raw cards and raw comic books. Browse over 100,000 slab collectibles, authenticated by the industry's most trusted grading companies. Then check out a massive selection of sealed wax and now raw singles and raw lots. Join a passionate, no-nonsense community of nearly 50,000 members and enjoy some of the best buyer and seller protection in the business. And as always, MySlabs offers one of the most disruptive pricing models in the hobby, with seller fees as low as only 1%. So the next time you're forced to pay 10%, 20% or more to sell something from your collection, head over to MySlabs.com, the low-fee marketplace by collectors for collectors.
Thank you to MySlabs for sponsoring this video, and now let us get into it right here today. And the first thing that we got to talk about is kind of the big news or the big moment that came from the Thor Love and Thunder trailer, which is, of course, the market or everybody seeing Jane Foster, aka Natalie Portman, as the mighty Thor. And the book that, really, I think took off the most in the market is this one right here, which is the Thor #1 by Jason Aaron from 2014. Now, funny enough about this book is that this is actually, I guess you would consider this her first cover appearance and her third cameo appearance, or whatever distinction you want to call it, because we see her here on the cover, but she's actually not in this book. She's only on this book on the last page, which leads into Thor #2, which is her first full appearance. So what we see right here is kind of a similar situation to, X-Men with Bishop, where Bishop has a cover appearance, and then he's also the cameo of the last page. But as we know with the market, this seems to be the type of book that still kind of wins out, so to speak, when it comes to what collectors want. Because I think once a character is on a cover, even if they're not really involved in the story, thinking about characters like Red Hulk, that seems to be the book that really takes off the most in the market. So we're going to talk about the other books, but let's talk about this one first right here. And, just to put it a little bit into perspective, I pulled up the eBay sales so that we can kind of see what's been moving, what's been going on in this market. And here we see April 16th, so this is 2 days ago. What do we get the sense of how many books are moving on a daily basis? So on the 16th, we just kind of look here, we see 1, maybe 2, 3, and that's really it. And then on the 17th, we see 1, 2, and 3, and that's really it. So now we get to, April 18th, and we get that trailer, and let's just count the number of books that we see. I'm not going to count Thor #2 because we'll talk about that in a second, but let's just see if we can count the Thor #1s here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27,
2 hours later.
67, 68, 69, 70, 71. 71 sold comics just for Thor #1 from 2014, which is, the first cover appearance or first cameo appearance of Jane Foster as Thor. And, the question that I think is really funny and kind of why I was being sort of cheeky in my thumbnail for this video is just, that question of why do we do this? Every single time we, the comic book market, always get swindled by these trailers and buy into this, hype and this FOMO and stuff. And, I don't know. Are you someone out there who, bought this book yesterday? If you are, leave me a comment. Let me know what it is about, the trailer that made you want to jump on the book. But not only was there a high volume of sales for that book, there was also, some record prices, at least for this calendar year. And so let's kind of take a look at the GPA and see what this book has been doing. As you can see, the 30-day moving is actually a little bit lower than what the 12-month moving for this book was previously. But I do think that, in a month from now, these numbers will update, and I think that might actually change. But we can see here, the record high sale was actually set in this calendar year. Here, April 18th, there was a $400 sale. That was one of the sales amongst, you can see all of the April 18th sales right here. This is just the 9.8 grade. That's how many there were just in, just yesterday alone, versus you can see maybe one or two a day, potentially, in the times before that. But if we look at 2021, there was actually a record high sale for $516. Could maybe have been a newsstand situation. I don't really know if this book has newsstands. And then here in 2019, actually, I thought that this was really interesting. There was a record high sale of $455. And what is the significance of 2019? Well, that would have been when they originally announced Natalie Portman at San Diego Comic-Con, had that famous image of her holding up Mjolnir. So this is something I think is really interesting to think about too, is that, here we see, this book selling for $455 just when we got the original announcement of the character. And the book had corrected super hard, all through 2020 and even early 2021. You could have once again got it for, 200, 250 or whatever the case may be. And I think one of the reasons why, someone bit into, say, that $450 price tag is that, when you get those moments and you get those announcements, there's only so much inventory that is available, specifically in the graded sense, that is available at that time. So, maybe there was only one person who had that 9.8 listed on eBay, and somebody just wanted it. They just wanted to buy it. So that's something to think about too, is that when we get these big moments with, character announcements, or we see them in a trailer for a very first time, the inventory that you see on eBay is only going to be, whatever supply people were willing to put on eBay at that time. So that's something to think about, is that, when we get these hype moments, don't always think that, you're going to have to be the person that buys it before everybody else, because there's a lot of sellers who are thinking, oh, I got to list my book. So there's going to be a new influx of inventory in these moments. And that's really why you want to kind of let the waters cool a little bit, especially for modern books. So definitely use that patience, use that little bit of caution. And I think you will eventually be able to find a book for a solid price, even if you want to buy it, during the time that it is hot. But it's not just Thor #1 we need to talk about. She's had many kind of arguable first appearances here. And one of the books that I wanted to highlight was Hawkeye versus Deadpool 0. In this book, this is recognized as her first cameo appearance. And as you can see, Key Collector actually has a little image here where she just has kind of one or two panels where she's sort of in the background in the shadows. And I don't know, if you're one of those people who's a hard stickler for the first time is the first time is the first time, then, Hawkeye versus Deadpool 0 might be the book for you. But, funny enough, none of these books actually sold yesterday during the hype of the trailers. That no one actually went out and bought this book. So that's a book that I think the market has determined not really the book I want to own. Here, on the other hand, Thor: God of Thunder #25. This is actually considered her second cameo appearance if you consider Hawkeye versus Deadpool her first. And in this one, you can see right here, she actually does have a image on the final page. So this, to a lot of people, could be argued as her first true appearance. And this book actually did move a few copies in the market. We see here on April 18th, someone bought a 9.6 at $100. Here was another sale right here. Here was another sale with Gore the God Butcher. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About 7 or so sales for this book here. There's some variant covers too. So, maybe we'll call it 10 copies or so that actually went in the market. So a lot of people kind of thinking that this book might be the, real one to own. But, what we know in the market is that people love their covers. And I think that's really the reason why people have gravitated to this book the most, even more so than her quote unquote full appearance here. But no matter how technical we want to get about this iteration of her appearance, there is also this inconvenient truth right here, which is the What If #10 book. What if Jane Foster had found the hammer of Thor? And for a lot of people consider this book to be, Jane Foster's first true appearance as Thor. Now, this is one of those situations where it's a little bit hard to figure out if, the market really wants to own this book in comparison to Thor #1, because, this is a what if book. It's not in continuity. This doesn't exist within the Earth 616 that we read comic books in. But that didn't stop the market from jumping on this book. In fact, there were a lot of sales for this thing. And the thing thing about this book is that it's always going to have a higher sticker price than that of Thor #1 because it's a 1977 book. It's just going to be older. There's going to be less copies, so it's a little bit hard to compare it. But let's take a look at some of the numbers here. You can see on April 17th, there's maybe 1 or 2 sales, an 8.5 one for $183. But once we get to, April 18th, you can see that, here's another 8.5 that's sold. So just yesterday, it was 183, or on April 17th, and on April 18th, it shoots up to 225. And then I'm just going to kind of quickly show you guys here. This is all April 18th. You can just see from the visual how many of these books actually did sell in the market. And then the GPA, we actually did get a record high price for this particular book, which was $2,000. We saw a few sales just yesterday alone at the $2,000 price range. Actually, sorry, I misspoke. There was a record high sale in 2021 for $2,150, but we're basically hitting those record high sales. And as you can see, there were 4 yesterday, as opposed to, say, maybe the 4 that happened in the entire calendar year before that. So this book is a really interesting one that I think that, probably will always maintain a higher price point than that of Thor #1, but at the same time, I don't know if the market is going to gravitate to this book. I think it's just going to hold a higher price point because it's just going to be a book that is harder to find in 9.8. Now let's just quickly talk about a couple other books that moved in the market. Of course, this one is always fun to talk about. This is Journey into Mystery Annual #1, first appearance of Zeus, Olympia, and Hercules. Of course, we got the reveal that Zeus was in the trailer. Of course, Russell Crowe is playing Zeus. Now the question is, are we going to be getting Hercules? Still hard to determine if we're going to actually get a reveal of Hercules in this particular film, but certainly it's possible that he is on the table. Now, there were a few sales of this book. Yesterday we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sales. So, a decent amount. That's a lot more than would go on a normal day. And we actually did see 2 4.0 grades sell back to back, which I thought was kind of interesting because, I traded my 3.5, just the other day. And actually, now that I'm seeing that the 4.0s are moving for that price point, I definitely think that, the 3.5 will do well for Harry as well. But this actually set the record high at this grade level at $485. Previous record high for this was actually around the $435 range. So definitely a book that has also been moving. On top of that, we also got this image here where we got the reveal of this particular god in the trailer. This particular panel, of course, came from Thor, God and Thunder #3. And this was a situation that I think is really funny because kind of like when we got the Ms. Marvel trailer, there weren't a lot of Ms. Marvel books that moved, but the one that did move was that Ms. Marvel #5 that kind of had that poster appearance like she was in the trailer. And I feel like we got a similar situation here with this book, where once we saw that image in the trailer that is similar to the panel, there were a lot of sales of this book, God of Thunder #3. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't need to count this, guys, for you, but I'll just show you guys, just how many, how long it takes for me to get to April 17th. So we stop right here. So, still a pretty decent amount of sales overall for this book. I think it's really interesting that people like to pick up this type of thing because, it's just a moment. Like, I don't know, maybe we're going to have a huge, a future with that story of that God character that Thor is standing in front of. But at the same time, to me, it just feels like this is probably just a one panel moment in a one shot of the trailer. And, if you want that book, you can definitely buy it. But I would say that if you really, really want it, there's probably going to be other times further down the line where you can get it for a little bit cheaper. But there is one other sort of spec-ish book that I kind of wanted to throw out to you guys. This one I think is really interesting because, it's the kind of spec book that I like, where it's already a Silver Age book that, is kind of cool in its own right. But I think there's just a little bit of a potential for something like this. Well, in the Thor Love and Thunder trailer, we did see the Guardians of the Galaxy. And one of the characters that we saw was actually the character known as Kraglin. Now, if you guys don't remember who Kraglin is James Gunn's brother. I think his name is Sean Gunn, who plays this character in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. Well, in the trailer, we actually saw him slightly in silhouette. There you can see him right there. He's actually got the Yondu headpiece on, and it looks like he's, by all accounts, effectively a new team member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And his first appearance actually occurs in this book right here, which is Tales to Astonish #46. This would actually be the 4th appearance of the Wasp and the first appearance of the character known as Kraglin, who is Sean Gunn's character in the MCU. And I really do think that this is kind of an interesting book. Like, nobody's really talking about this one. I went onto the eBay sold items. We didn't see any sales yesterday, but I do like the potential of, Sean Gunn's character, Kraglin, being a little more involved in the story. Now, I don't necessarily think he's ever going to be like, getting his own Disney Plus show or anything like that. In fact, after James Gunn is done with Guardians of the Galaxy 3, maybe Sean Gunn is going to leave with him. So I don't know if this book has like huge potential legs, but it is a classic Silver Age book. It's got a beautiful cover on it, and it is the first appearance of Kraglin. So one book that might be worth, kind of keeping your eye on when you're out there hunting in the wild, because I feel like a book like that could be, pretty cheap overall. For the most part, it's probably identified as kind of like a run filler for Tales to Astonish, but, could be an interesting character and one that will certainly show up at least a couple more times, probably in the Guardians holiday special, certainly in Thor, and then most likely in Guardians of the Galaxy #3. Anyways, that's all for this video. That was me sort of just looking over the market after the Thor Love and Thunder trailer. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys buy any of these books? Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next video.